So first off, my apologies for the background noise, if there is any, because I have two fans going on either side of me. It is pretty hot. So today we're just going to be talking about a few really common questions that have to do with living in a vehicle and money. So a few days ago, I asked, I think on Instagram and Twitter, just if anybody had any questions that had to do with this lifestyle and money. And there were a lot of questions actually. Some of them not really pertaining to money, so I kind of just saved them and I'll go over them at a later date. And then there were some that were on topic, but they are better saved for another video that I'm going to make, which is going to be about my budget and my main expenses and kind of like a monthly breakdown of money, like how much I spend a month and all that good stuff. So that's coming later. For now, we're just going to focus on like all of the other questions that have to deal with money. Specifically, like I think the number one most popular question is how much does van life cost? And then probably in second place would be like how much of a savings do you have to have before you start? So that's the road that we're going to travel down today, and there's going to be just a ton of questions that I'm going to go over. Okay, so naturally that brings us to question number one. How much does van life cost? Now, the answer is super simple, but I know a lot of people are not going to be very happy with this answer. And I would say that van life costs as much as you want it to cost. It can vary from person to person. So I personally have lived a vehicle dwelling lifestyle with making as little as $400 a month. Now, was that pretty? No, it wasn't. And there are reasons that happened, but the point is that I'm here, I'm alive, and I was able to sustain myself with that little amount of money. So like, would I recommend trying to live off of $400 a month? Honestly, no. I would never recommend that to somebody, but the idea behind it, like the fact that I could survive on that little bit amount of money, is to me what makes the lifestyle so exciting, is because it's so malleable. Like, I could live on $400 a month, or I can live on $4,000 a month. And of course, the difference in those two lifestyles, or anywhere in between on that spectrum, is gonna look completely different. But like I said, just reiterating the idea that like I could survive like that, because I can guarantee you there's no way that I could have survived making $400 a month and like living in an apartment or living in a house, because that doesn't even really cover rent. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So for this question in particular, I don't like to look at it as like how much does van life cost, because that's so hard to answer. It's really like how much money do you have and what can you do with that money? Unfortunately, there's not like a set amount, like, oh, if you have $20,000, you can live this lifestyle, you'll be set. It's different for everyone, because you have different expenses every month. There's different things that you like to do, different ways that you like to eat. Just like entire lifestyles are different, okay? So like, you can't, just the way you can't be like, oh, how much does it cost to live in a house every month? It's like, well, it depends on what kind of house you have and what kind of lifestyle you have. Like, your budgeting is going to look different. So unfortunately, there's not a set answer to that question. The best answer, in my opinion, is that it can cost however much you want it to cost. Of course, you know, it can't cost $0 a month. Like, you know, you gotta be a little practical. Okay, so moving on to question number two, and I'm just gonna read off of my laptop the questions that people wrote. This one, okay, question number two. How often are you running around with $0 to your name, and what do you do to get out of being broke? So for the first part of that question, how often am I running around with $0 to my name? Never ever. You know, I've gone through experiences in the past, I think we all have, that have really shaped how I view money, how I value it, what I do with it, and it's impacted the rest of my life. So I have made it a point to never be broke. I mean, sounds pretty reasonable, right? So there's never a point where I don't have any money. And for as far as like how do I refrain from being broke, I budget. I have a really rigorous and strict budget plan that I stick to. It's definitely not for everybody, but it works really well for me. So again, that I'm going to be going over in a video later. But the reason that I really wanted to include that question is because I know that, you know, a lot of people think that because if someone lives in a van, then they're automatically broke. And it's like, no, car dwelling has actually afforded me to have the most amount of money that I have ever had in my entire life, as opposed to when I lived in a house and an apartment. So I think it's important to, I don't think anyone, regardless of what you live in, where you live, whatever, I don't think anyone should ever have $0 to their name. You know, that's just not, it's not really responsible, it's not really wise. I'm aware that sometimes circumstances happen and like you can't control it, and that's really unfortunate. But as far as like if something is in your control, like you should never have $0. Like that, yeah. Okay, question number 3. And so this one is actually 3 questions grouped together. They're all just kind of on the same topic. So it's like, do you have to start with a lot in your savings? How much did you save before you started? And should you save money before doing this? So you can see they're all kind of tied together. So we're just kind of gonna work our way backwards with this one on the topic of like should you save money before doing this? I think that if you're trying to be responsible, mature, and practical, yeah, you should save money before doing this. Ideally, having some sort of cushion to build off of would be great. However, then we move into the territory of how much should you save before doing this? So again, this is another question that's super personal. You can't really put like a set dollar amount on it. It kind of depends on like what van you want to get, how much it's going to cost you. Are you going to want it professionally built out? Are you going to build it out yourself? Like the types of materials you want to use. Are you going on like, are you doing everything on a budget? Are you trying to just make it as nice as possible and make it super fancy? Like, you know, there's all of these little things that are going to affect the cost. So as just a general suggestion, if you are going the route of like, okay, I want to save money before I embark on even buying a vehicle, I think that's really smart, and I think the best thing to do would just be to get a general overview of all of the things that are going to cost you some money, such as, like I said earlier, the van, the materials, who's building it, and how much is that going to cost? How often are you going to want to travel as far as like frequency, distance, and the gas mileage on the vehicle that you're looking at. If you can kind of just get like a rough idea of your like ideal setup goals, then you can kind of see how much it's going to cost you, and that will just give you like a really good base number to work with, so you kind of have a better idea of like how much money you really need to accomplish everything that you want, and then you can kind of like budget it out, put like some money aside monthly or however you want to do it. But I think just having an overall view of like what you want and how much that is realistically going to cost will definitely help you start setting out small little increments and baby steps that you can take to get there. I don't necessarily think that you have to save, like if something's going to cost you $30,000, I don't think that you have to save $30,000 before you start. However, if you want to, that works too. See, that's where it's like, it's kind of just whatever works best for you, however much money you make a month, however much you can put aside for all of this stuff. And so how much did I personally save before doing this? None. Nada. The reason for that simply being I didn't plan on moving into a car. It was something that just kind of happened, and so I didn't have any savings prior to moving into a car. And it's not like when I was paying rent and living in a house, I thought like having a savings was a bad idea. You know, didn't think that at all. It was just, you know, I was living that paycheck to paycheck life, yo. Literally all of my money went to bills. If I tried like really hard, I probably could have saved like $20 a month, which would have been better than nothing, but that's just not how it went down. However, I did start actively saving my money once I moved into a car. That is the sole reason that I was able to afford a van, is because of the fact I moved into a car, saving a whole bunch of money, like, okay, now I have some savings, oh, I could buy something. So I definitely think it's wise and helpful to have a savings prior to starting, if that's possible. However, if it isn't, I don't think that that should be something to hold you back from starting. So in short, should you save money before doing this? Yeah, probably. But do you have to? No, you don't have to. Alright, here we go. Topic number 4. I'm going to call these topics instead of questions because some of these have like multiple questions. Do you keep all your money on you or stash it somewhere? How do you manage how much cash you keep with you while you are on the road for safety. So I don't keep all my money on me. I definitely stash it somewhere at the bank. How much cash do I usually have on me? Honestly, most of the time, none. I mean, I don't keep money in the van because, I mean, people could break into my van at any point in time. And then, yeah, that would be really bad. So I definitely don't do that. And as far as like keeping cash on me, there's not a lot of stuff that I've found I need cash for. If anything, I'll keep like a 20. But even if you're like in a group of people and you guys are like splitting a cost with something, they have apps for that. Like you can just send them money, you know? And like gas stations take card. Like most places take card. So yeah, I don't know. I'm having trouble thinking of a situation where it would be like super clutch that you just have like a bunch of cash on you. In my head, that kind of just sounds more dangerous than helpful. So I'm not sure. Like me personally, I don't really keep that much cash on me. And like specifically for safety reasons, because you know, if someone steals your debit card, you can cancel your card, report like false charges or things that you didn't buy, and they can refund you and you can get a new card, versus if someone steals your cash, like you're just that just sucks, dude. Ooh, here's another popular one. Numero 5. How much does a van conversion / van build cost? You guys, these are all, you just can't put a number on it. Like there are some people who, you know, I'm sure you've seen videos of people who are like, oh, van conversion for under $1,000. But then there's some people who their van conversion, including like the van itself and everything, are like $50,000. Sometimes even more. Like it really just depends on like what elements you want to put in it, how much time you're willing to spend on it, if you're doing it yourself or if you're paying somebody to do it, like all kinds of things. So a van build or a van conversion can, again, this is one of those things where it's like, it's not how much does it cost, it's how much money do you have, how much money are you willing to spend type of deal. You feel? So that kind of ties into topic number 6, which is what is my budget, or do I have a budget for my van build? I do not have a van or like a budget for my van build. I've never sat down and said like, okay, $20,000, that's the cap. I'm gonna work within those confines and do everything that I can within that. And I think that'll be a little easier to explain when I show you guys how I budget all of my money as a whole. But how do I say this concisely? I know that there are certain things that I want in the van, and I definitely know there are things that I don't want to skimp on. And so even though they're a little more pricey, that doesn't matter to me because I'm trying to invest in quality the first time around, rather than going the cheaper route and then that backfiring on me and then I have to buy something again because I didn't just go with the expensive option the first time, blah blah blah. I don't think the more expensive the better, just in certain things, you know, you get what you pay for at times. So partially for that reason, but also because I just didn't want to constrain myself or stress myself out by saying, okay, like here's the maximum you can spend, work some magic with those numbers. It's like, nah, it's like if I want something, I'm just gonna buy it. And not like I have all the money in the world and I'm rich or something. It's more of like, okay, I have set my eyes on something that I want. This is how much it costs. So now I have to budget and actively save and accumulate X amount of money so I can purchase said thing. And then again and again and again until I have all of these things in place and the van will be. Alright, number 7. How does one make money to pay for bills / for necessities? Okay. Here's the deal. You know how like when you live in a house or you live in an apartment, you gotta make money, right? So you work to make money. When you move into a vehicle, nothing changes. I want to say that this is probably pertaining to more of like how do you get a job that allows you to travel full time, because that's a little trickier. And I have a video on that. I talk about I want to say it's like 10 different jobs you could get, and then I even have a separate video on 10 different websites that you could use to get those jobs or something like that. I'll link them. But, you know, living in a vehicle does not equate to traveling full-time. Traveling full-time does not equate to living in a vehicle. There are plenty of people who do either or and don't do both. And so yeah, getting like freelancing jobs or jobs that allow you to travel full-time all the time, it's a little bit trickier, but it's still manageable. And as far as like how do I personally do it, how do I personally do it? I have a couple of freelancing jobs. I go through the website upwork.com. That's one of the ones I've talked about before. It took me a while to get jobs on there. Was I gonna stay? No. I had to, you know, I think I applied to like 50 jobs before I even got like one. So don't be afraid to just stick to it and keep applying. But I will also definitely take a regular job. And by regular, I mean like a traditional style job where you have to be there, you know, a certain amount of hours. That thing is gonna be the death of me. Okay. That is all of the money questions that I have. If you have any more, leave some in the comments. If you've got any suggestions about any of the things that I talked about or anything at all that has to do with this topic, leave it in the comments, because money is a very important topic. We could all always use more information on this subject, so please feel free to share, and I will see you guys next time.